Hi, Romesh Shivastu here, Editor-in-Chief, SightsIn Plus. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please do subscribe this for the HR news, for HR updates, and conversation with the top-notch CHROs. We see nowadays a lot of buzzwords like quiet quitting, like moonlighting, like the great resignations. We see also the career cushioning. But what these all the buzzwords indicate, I think these buzzwords indicate the disengagement of the employees from the organization, and they are in the way to exit. They are quitting the job, maybe in near future. Their
Yes.
priorities, if we see that are changed, their expectation from the employer, I think, are changed. If we see also the employer and employee relationships have gone shower in last couple of years. So to discuss on these all the burning issues today, we have Dr. Bob Nelson. He is a world-renowned expert in employee engagement and recognition. He is joining us from the USA. Dr. Bob has published around 30 books. If the latest two books I name here, so one is a 1501 ways to reward employees, and another one is recognizing and engaging employees for dummies. So
Yes, that's
welcome, Dr. Bob.
1,001 ways. 101 ways is the first chapter.
Okay, okay. So welcome, Dr. Bob, to
Thank
Science
you. Thank you
Plus.
for having me.
So, Dr. Bob, in such a scenario, how do you foresee the employee engagement challenges in this year, 2023?
Well, I think it's going to be challenging. The workplace is in turmoil with so many changes coming off the pandemic, and so there were a lot of changes during the pandemic. The main one being the move to virtual work and people working from home. And now we've been groping with getting people back to the office. Fully 50% of all employees say that their job can be done 100% from their home. So a lot of people are not very anxious to go back to the office and to commuting, and to we still have COVID to deal with, and so that's been a upsetting, a challenging thing. No two companies have done exactly the same, and it's all over the map where it stands, and employee expectations. So I think it's going to be an ongoing issue between the employee expectations and the employer expectations, just on coming into the office, you know. And some industries, finance in New York City, for example, put their foot down, and you will come. If you can go out to dinner in New York City, you can come to work at New York City and put down their foot. But and other companies, high-tech companies, have been a little bit more on the fence. Apple sent out an email to all employees, say, "We know you're excited to come back," and they got a lot of pushback. Who told you that? You know, so they had to soft pedal and have a more flexible approach. I think most companies are going with a more flexible approach to allow telecommuting, at least some. So at least a few days a week, and in the office, a minimum of 1 day a week, maybe up to 3 days, is what I'm hearing from most employees. So that's been a big adjustment, and we hear talk of the coming recession, you know, which seems kind of strange, because we have unemployment in the U.S. is at 3.5%, which is historically very, very low. So it doesn't seem like recessionary times, but mainly the big tech companies are bracing against that, the expected changes, and so they're already tightening down and laying people off and whatnot. So that's another challenge that we're faced with.
So, of course, the recession is looming up in USA and some of the European countries. But if I see, this may be also one of the reasons of the disengagement. Obviously, layoffs are going on there. So, but there is also decline in engagement and job satisfaction, especially if we talk about the Generation Z and young millennials, those who are below 35 years. So we are talking that their expectations are changed.
They have.
The expectations from the employer are, I think, the change. Their perspective to looking at work, perspective to looking at job are changed now. So, in your
Well,
opinion, what they are expecting? If we talk about the middle managers and junior employees, especially if as we are talking about this generation. So, in your opinion, what is their expectations now from the employer?
junior, new employees, younger generation, they very, very much want more flexibility, more autonomy. They want to, we've proved that it could work in the pandemic. You know, there's a big question mark beforehand, but we proved that people are actually more productive working at home. There may be some cost in connection and FaceTime meetings and whatnot, but in general, studies have been consistent that people are more productive working at home. Some studies have shown twice as productive, not even counting the commute time. People can be more focused. There's less interruptions. They can work on what times work best for them, which might be different times of the day. It might be late at night, might be early morning. So they don't. They know it can work, and so they would like to have that. But I think for the younger generation, from research I've seen, they're mainly interested in security. You know, with the coming off the pandemic, and then now potential layoffs, and then they've many have student loans to pay back, and so they want a job that will be there for multiple years, and so that security need is maybe higher than we've seen in previous generations. Everyone, of course, wants to make the most money they can, but and that's not any less for millennials, but they also want to have a job that they can be excited about, and that's where engagement comes in. And you know, there's there's been another talk of another trend in the U.S. at least on quietly quitting, where younger employees will just not only work as hard as they have to and not take anything on. And I kind of thought that's silly, because every employee's had that ability to quietly quit, and only you know how hard you're going to work, and whether you go above and beyond or whether you quit when it's 5 p.m. So I think that's a bit of a ruse, but in general, younger employees in general want to be more engaged. They want to have a greater say in their workplace. They want to be asked in my research, being asked for their opinion, and for their suggestions. 92% of employees said that was important to them. 89% said it was important to be involved in decisions that are made in the workplace, especially those that involve them and their job. You know, they're closer to it. Maybe ask me what I think should be changed. And 95% want, you know, more two-way communication, direct, honest communication. And so those, in fact, in my research, the top motivators are things that don't cost any money. They're basically behavioral, the interpersonal, that any manager can and should do if they focus on it. Now you asked about younger employees, upper managers, where are they on this? Well, they're a little bit more old school as a rule of thumb. And honestly, a lot of managers have difficulty managing people they can't see. They're just not, they're not used to that. And they didn't really like it during the pandemic, and they, you know, want people back in the office. And so that's a big challenge that management needs to change their perception and their approach. And unless it's not working in their case, they should try to accommodate, I feel, employees, because in doing that, you'll have happier employees that are more satisfied, which is what you want.
So, Dr. Bob, as we talk about some of the flexibility they are looking for some job security. But as of now, especially if we talk about the USA and European companies, even the European companies and American companies which are here in India, so they are laying off their employees. So, some due to the recession, this may be one of the reason. So, how the companies can ensure them about the job security? Those who are working currently with the organization.
Well, nothing beats success. So have the company be successful, and then you've got an ongoing job to be able to offer people, which ultimately means every employee needs to be doing more than they're just asked to do. They need to be taking initiative, and that's another characteristic that can be developed and encouraged with employees. I've worked with employees just on, or employers just on like suggestion systems. I worked with one company in Connecticut that they had it was great. It was a very simple program. It was called iPower. And all it was they asked every employee to turn in 2 suggestions each week for how we can do things better around here, how we could save money, how we can better please our clients, how we can streamline processes. And it took them a couple tries to get it going, but once it was, they had got thousands of ideas. They weren't able to implement all of them, but they implemented a lot of them. And as a result, they saved a lot of money. That just doing that one thing differently led to a 5-fold increase in their revenues in a 3-year period. So your employees, if you tap into what they have to offer, you may very well be surprised, because who knows their job better than themselves? And I'll give you just one example from that company. They had they sold, they were in the newsletter business. They had 5 of the 6 largest newsletters in the country, and they did these large books, and they had one employee suggested just one in 1 week. They're doing 2 per person per week, but just one suggestion he had was that the next time they print this large book that they sold a lot of, if they got the printer when they ordered it to cut the print size, he calculated a 1/16 of an inch, so just a very small amount. The book would fall into the next postal rate, and they'd save some money in shipping it. And we turned that in, and darn, he was right. They saved $500,000 the first year in making that simple change. Their chairman of the company told me, Bob, I've worked in direct mail for 27 years. I didn't even know there was a 4th-class postal rate, but to the kid, almost the teenager that's looking at the shipping chart day in and day out, he knew that was, and again, we missed it, And so if we can tap into what people have, there's an unlimited stream of suggestions and improvements that most companies, I find, don't take advantage of, don't set the mechanism to make it happen. And if they do anything, that they have a suggestion box in the lunchroom with a lock on it no one's ever opened. That's not a very vibrant system. You've got to say you want it, you've got to ask for it, you've got to thank people when they turn ideas, even if they're not all good ones. You want to encourage the activity of thinking about it, and if you do that, you'll get winning ideas. And in this case, every now and then you get a big winning idea, but a lot of little ones add up too. So that would be a simple case for greater initiative from employees that you would get from engagement.
Dr. Bob, sometimes we talk about that employers need to have a conversation with the employees, and that should be meaningful conversation. Whether it's the quiet quitting, whether it's the moonlighting, any other issue, but conversation that is very important with the employer and employer. So, what is your advice? How the employers can have a meaningful conversation? What is your views on this?
Well, depending on the person, if it's just the manager to their immediate staff or the CEO to the whole company, we know from research that the best leaders are positive and they're forward-looking. So I would say be those things, talk about the importance of what we're doing, provide the why is very important. If you just tell people to do stuff and they don't know why it's important, they're not going to have as much motivation for it because they don't really understand. May sound like busy work. But if you say, we need to fix this because of these things are happening, or customers are complaining about this, now they've got more of a rationale and that gives them more motivation to do a good job because they know what customers are depending on it. So certainly providing the why. And so I think it's a critical job skill for leaders to be motivational and inspiring, and that can be challenging for some people. But I'd say if you work on it, you get better at it, and just speak from the heart and share what you're excited about. I find is a good place to start. If you're trying to convince other people to be excited, start by saying why you're so excited in your job in working for this company, and the potential we have and the progress we're making and the people that we're serving, and have them hear that and feel that. It'll be easier for them to want to sign up and be a part of that. So mission is very important in motivation. It's a big picture, but connecting people to the mission doesn't happen by chance, or just because you have the value on the wall doesn't mean people are going to automatically do it. So you have to help them get there, and you do it by talking about it and talking about what you're doing, what your department's doing, what the company's doing, what progress they're making, what they're doing for society. It's not just about making money; it's what are we doing to service our clients better than hopefully other people. And I find most employees, especially younger employees, are maybe a little bit more idealistic and want to work for a place where they can be part of something larger than themselves. It's not just a job and they get a paycheck and they pay their bills. It's something they're excited about, and they're excited about the job and who they're doing it with and who they're doing it for. And so all that is an important conversation to have, or it needs to be part of your orientation. For anyone, if you just to give them, time to talk about that, and maybe to share the journey that other people in the organization have made in their careers in this organization is very powerful, because it shows people through example that this could happen to you as well. You can start wherever and end up in a senior position if you do a good job and you take on more responsibility as you go. So then all of a sudden, it's not a job anymore, it's a career. And that's a little bit easier for people to sign up for and to be excited about. And also that provides a buffer for taking another job. That give you an example, my wife's a computer scientist, and she had a month or two ago, she had a recruiter call her and had the perfect job for her, and it paid $100,000 more than she's currently making. And my wife didn't even think twice about it. She said, "No thanks. I love my job. I love the way they treat me. I'm happy here." And you don't say that if it's not true, So she really is happy and fulfilled and loves her team, and her manager treats her right. And they have, for example, they have a weekly one-on-one meeting where the manager talks to each of his direct reports, and he frames it with a open-ended question. And like one that he had with her, I don't know, several months ago, was what truly makes you the most proud of the work you do? Broad question.
Great. That is great.
Yeah, and she came back and said that she's most excited when she can do something that helps the company in their market share and delight customers. Well, her boss passed that feedback on to the founder of the company, who a few days later called her and said, we probably don't say it enough, but we really value having you on the team. And of course that went a long way with her, and just really cemented that she's in the right place and she loves what she's doing and who she's doing it for.
Great
And that's,
example, Dr. Bob.
I think,
So,
everyone could be in that, place. Every employee wants to be in that place. And so this helped them get there. It's not that hard.
absolutely, absolutely. So, Dr. Bob, what are the top trends that will impact the employee experience in 2023?
Well, employee experience is part of employee engagement, part of recognition. Recognition is probably the top in my research and reported by the Harvard Business Review. Recognition is the top skill that most drives engagement, and so I would say that it has an impact on employee experience as well. I think part of the talk about the top challenges for companies, it's really, to me, it's taking the topic seriously, because so much of it sounds like, common sense. Treat people well, thank them when they do a good job, involve them in decisions that they're impacted by, have two-way conversations, get back to them when they had a question you couldn't answer, et cetera, et cetera. But most companies don't, I find, take it seriously, that it sounds messy, and why can't people just do what they're told to do? And I think the challenge I see in working with organizations is to have them, get in and really take the topic seriously, to create a motivation baseline. What do their employees most want? And I find most companies have never asked their employees that. Maybe they'll have an employee survey, an attitude survey once a year, once every 2 years. And in that, they might have a question or two on, do you feel valued in your role in the company? And that's one data point. And if people say no, they don't, what do they do with it? They're not sure, because they don't have much depth to it. It's like someone, showing you one divot in a golf ball and asking you to predict the shape of the ball. You can't do it. But if you get multiple viewpoints and multiple data points, you can start to shape the entity. And I think that's what we have to do with the motivation baseline of the employees. What do your employees want? Does that vary by their age, or does it vary by their personality? How does it vary? What are the themes? And then try to address that. Try to make it the workplace that they want to work for. So to me, it seems very straightforward, but I find most companies don't do that. They maybe assume they already know. It's very common when I talk to a large company and I'll ask them about recognition, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, we're all over it. And we had, we had just had a holiday party, and we've got coming up. We do something for people on their birthdays, and we have and they'll go on, and after a while say, you're doing a lot of things, but I didn't hear recognition on that list, because recognition makes people feel special. And if you do just a general party, it doesn't make people feel special. A lot of them don't want to go, or even something on someone's birthday. That sounds like that's personal and it's gonna be meaningful. But everyone that has a birthday in January, we've got a cake in the meeting room on the second Tuesday of the month. Come get a slice. Wow, what's that gonna do for anyone? For me, I actually prefer to celebrate my birthday with my family and loved ones, not as a public thing at work. That's I'm uncomfortable with that. And so if we're going to force it on people, things that they don't want, and that's where, again, getting to know people and what they want. So finding out, are they more introverted or extroverted? Because they may not want something splashy. They want anyone hugging them. They don't, but it doesn't mean they don't need to feel valued and appreciated. It just means that you have to show it in a way that works for them, and it's able to do that. So instead of giving them a hug and making a big scene, maybe you get a personal gift for them as a thank you for finishing the project, or maybe you ask them their choice of next assignments, because what we're doing around here. You're doing a great job. How can you most add value here? Wow, that's pretty cool. I worked for Ken Blanchard for 10 years. He wrote the 1 Minute Manager. I had 5 jobs in that time, and everyone was created for me. You know, Bob, what do you think? You're doing a great job. What else do you think you could help us with? Well, I think we should do this, do that, you know, and off I'd go. And so it was, you know, it was making the job what I wanted and having an impact. And I was pretty driven to do that. So it worked out for both of us.
So, Dr. Bob, I think you talked about most of the points, but again, if I check with you that in current scenario, when the workplace culture is utterly disrupted, so what do you see are the drivers for the employee engagement, and what are your specific tips that can help to boost the employee engagement in current scenario?
Sure. Well, again, I come back to simple, proven strategies. So, listening to people, asking them how you can help, um, encouraging them where, when necessary, rolling up your sleeves and diving in with them. Asking, you know, and a lot of people now are working on with like we're doing now, Zoom calls and whatnot, and they sometimes they feel they can't, you know, it's a very limited vehicle for doing activities and whatnot. Well, no, you can make it fun. You could, you know, like one thing that I recommend on if you're doing a lot of Zoom calls is do a praise barrage. A praise barrage is a simple activity where you just say, hey, before we get into our agenda, let's just go around our group. And as I call someone's name, I like everyone else to share what they most value about working with that person. Let's start with Tom. Okay, now Sally. And then what, 10 minutes later, what happened? Everyone has gotten personal feedback about something they're doing well as perceived by others. That's very important to know, to make you feel great and to make you know the things you're doing that are adding value to the team. And the activity of doing that will bring the team tighter together and be more cohesive. And it's going to be, it's a positive. You can't help but have the rest of the conversation be positive because you set the tone of the meeting. And that's a simple way to make sure everyone's getting feedback that's current about the things that they do from those that they work with. So just because you're not in person together doesn't mean you can't still find ways to tap into connecting people better to each other. Or Hyatt hotels, when I worked with them, they would do secret Santas. You'd have a praise partner, someone else on the team that they'd give you the name of someone else on the team, and they said pay attention to, especially with things that they do, and thank them and catch them doing things right. And then that person has someone doing it to them as well. So it's or they would share, they call them me pages, that everyone would write up, they'd answer like a dozen questions about their hobbies and their preferences. You know, could be types of food or types of flower. Do they have any pets? And that became fodder that they could talk about to get to know each other better. And again, the more you do that, the tighter, the stronger the team you'll have that will be more likely to work through challenges and not give up. So those are simple tricks that I tend to come back to the common sense stuff. That's, you know, Voltaire in 1640 said, few things are less common than common sense. You know, and so it's not just knowing the common sense, it's actually doing the things that speak to it. So if you haven't connected with people, taking time to talk to them, to get to know them, is an important place to start. As you find out what makes this a special job for them that they could be excited about, and what would they like to do next? Even if they just started, what is this going to lead to? You want your boss to know that so they can help have an eye out to get you there. You know, I mentioned my wife. She had like a dozen software engineers work for her, and in the last year she had 4 of them promoted to other roles in the company. Now some managers would cringe on that, say, oh no, I got to hire someone else, and I couldn't afford to lose that person, they were so good. But Yeah, she took it as it is. It's a compliment to her leadership that she's a developer of people, and maybe that's what she does for her company hat. But she enjoys doing it, and she's good at it, and people love her for it. When she left the last job, she had a guy and his 45-year-old guy cry because he was so sorry to see her leave because she was such a good manager. And it's the secret to being a good manager is not that difficult. The difficult part is actually doing those things that are the right things to do, and actually making a commitment to make that happen. So catching people doing things right, doing it on a daily basis, not every person every day, but every day someone, so it becomes part of your, I call it behavioral repertoire, that you're always kind of on the lookout for things that are going well to make sure to thank people about that. It doesn't get old to people to be thanked
Dr.
and
Bob,
praised for doing a good job.
I think we have covered most of the important points. But finally, I would like to know about your upcoming book. If you want to share about your latest book.
Sure, I'll do both. A little both. My last book was called "Work Made Fun Gets Done." So another aspect of, for especially the younger generation, they're looking to have fun at work. They they don't want to be a boring job. They want to be excited, and they want to be excited with their coworkers. And so I put together strategies from whether it's you working on your own task by itself, and how I researched how people make work fun for them on even doing a boring task. You can make it fun in different ways, and how you can do it even more so as a group and then as an organization. So that book has over 400 real life examples that I collected from actual companies and people that gave them to me. And then my next book that I'm currently being worked on is called Already Naked: Lessons from Steve Jobs. And
My
I'm
best
going.
wishes for the upcoming book. And I think we had a
that's
great
upcoming book.
conversation. And thank you for joining us and sharing your wonderful thoughts on employee engagement. That is, I think, much needed as of now. So thank you again, Dr. Bob.
Thanks for having me. Look forward to talking to you again.